Hi, I'm Andrew Wasson. Thanks for joining me for my weekly guitar blog. It's June 23rd, 2013, and this week we're going to cover making the diminished scale sound bluesy. Now, this question was sent in from Josh. He's in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and he wrote in with this email. I've read how there are ways to make the diminished scale sound bluesy. Unfortunately, none of the forums or the apps I've got from my iPad explain exactly how to make diminished scale sound bluesy, nor are there any explanations for which diminished scale you'd use over a blues in, like, the key of maybe F. Could you put up a lesson or a blog post on this? Thank you, from Josh in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, USA. Well, hey, thanks for writing in, Josh. There are several ways that we can use the diminished scale to sound bluesy. The easiest way is just to directly blend it in with the same root of the key that you've been working within in the song. So, for example, if you were perhaps jamming on a super common key for a typical 12-bar blues, such as the key of A, then you can simply blend the notes of the A diminished scale along with the notes of the blues scale, the extremely common A blues scale, right alongside of it. Now, another cool idea is to blend scales off of the major third of any dominant seventh chord. So this means if you wanted to play the diminished scale off of an F dominant seventh chord, you can select the major third from the dominant chord and then utilize it as the root of the diminished. In the case of an F7, the note of A is the major third. So therefore you can play the A diminished over top of the F7 chord. So anyway, let's begin examining how diminished operates on the fretboard as a scale pattern, and then we'll get into blending a few lines into some guitar licks for your practice at home. Well, let's start by running through a fingerboard pattern built off of an A root to establish both a working position for our example licks, as well as a full pattern layout of diminished scale. If it's an unfamiliar scale with you, at least you can practice off something to get yourself started. Now, the layout of the diminished scale that we'll be using is located at the 5th position on the neck at the 6th guitar string A note, and this is what it sounds like. Covers diminished seventh chords, diminished triads, and of course some dominant sounds as well. So now that we've established a fingerboard layout for that diminished scale, let's next move into the world of making the diminished scale work as a way to blend it in alongside of the minor pentatonic blues scale. In this case, we'll be using A blues pentatonic. This is such a common shape. I'm sure you probably know it. One of the most common soloing scale shapes out there. And what we're going to do is blend A diminished alongside of that A blues scale. So here's the first guitar lick. Sounds like this. And that's over top of the sounds of an A dominant seventh chord. So it sounds real nice, has a real nice blended sound, sounds fairly common actually. You almost wouldn't even know it that the diminished was in use. But let's go and carry on with one more guitar lick. That last one there was operating mostly on the upper string sets of the guitar. So this time let's jam out on another blending concept here, but this time let's place our focus down onto the lower guitar string sets. I'm also going to change up the rhythm a bit. That last one was fairly eighth note oriented. We're going to do a lot of triplets in the next guitar lick. Still starting on the same root of A off of the 5th fret of the 6th string. Here's the next blending lick example. Once again, just as a reminder, we're just using A diminished scale, A blues scale over top of an A 7th harmony. This is what it sounds like. One more time. You see we're ending right on those flat 7 and major third tones of that A7 chord. Really nice connected sound there. So that's, you can tell overall it's a really connected sort of idea. You know, when you're using the A diminished and A blues sounds blended over top of an A 7th chord, it's all in the pocket, sounds really cool, easy to do more or less. It may take a little bit of practice to write some licks, but that's straightforward. Now, Let's move on, though, to a whole other approach with the diminished scale. And with this next idea, we're going to create licks for a dominant seventh chord quality using the diminished scale, but this time built from the major third chord tone of the dominant chord. Now, I do want to keep on this A diminished scale, so you got to think, okay, an A is the major third of what dominant seventh chord? It would actually be F dominant seventh. So F dominant seventh has a major third of A, and that gives us the ability to use a diminished scale for creating licks. So let's start off here by just getting the sound of F7 into your head, and we're going to do a guitar lick that promotes this type of an approach. Here we go. Here it is again. So that sound that we're generating when applying this concept is kind of unique, and it can be described in two different perspectives, really. In one sense, the more analytical sense, we'll find upon comparing the notes from the F dominant seventh chord over to the A diminished scale, we're going to discover something kind of interesting here. See, the notes found within F dominant seventh are F, A, C, and E flat, and every one of those notes, aside from the root of F, are also found within the diminished scale. And this is somewhat of an odd scenario, since for many soloists, playing lines that resolve into the root of the chord of the moment is almost second nature. However, when we perform lines with this approach, we'll actually want to experiment with completely avoiding the root of the chord. Now, this means, of course, that we'll stick directly to the notes of the diminished scale, since we could add in the F, and if we did that, we would be leaving the notes of the diminished scale, and focusing a little bit more, I guess, on the arpeggio tones off of the F chord. So now soloing like this is, of course, interesting. It will take a little bit of time to get these quite different kinds of lines together in your playing, because probably you're not used to it. But still, the other perspective of this approach is the idea of feel. So when we study avoiding the root, we'll also begin phrasing note choices and rhythmic concepts very differently, and relying a lot more on feel itself. So check out the final lick I've created here that applies some very unique rhythmic feel concepts. Here we go. It's over top of F seventh chord again. Well, when students make it past their basic studies of most of the common major and minor and blues pentatonic scales, it's very likely that eventually students will start experimenting with other more unique scale types, such as the diminished scale. Now, in order to truly understand how to use your scales, it is extremely important to study harmony. And the construction of chords and the assembly of chords into progressions is the beginning stage with harmony. However, the side that deals with which scales work best over specific chord types and chords that are grouped together inside of progressions is where we can really have a lot of fun for both improvising and for composing and arranging. And we've seen how the blending of diminished with blues scale operates, and we also discussed the use of diminished off of the major third of a dominant chord. But keep in mind that there are several ways that any scale can be applied, so keep studying your music theory and compose and improvise daily. That will be the real trick to getting this stuff together. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for today. As always, thanks for watching. Have yourself a great week, and I'll catch up with you next time. Bye for now.